Hi everyone. How you doing? I'm impressed that you guys stuck around. I'm going to take that as a personal compliment. Do you want to close the doors? Is it a little noisy? Oh really? It's hot? Excellent. We won't do that then. All right, so this section is entitled Values in Design, and I put quotes around hands-on because there's so many of you. We're going to have to do a little bit differently on the workshopping side, but don't worry, you're still going to get to do stuff. My name is Rotondo, and I am an independent contractor working for MadPow. So this is sort of what we're going to be tackling today. You know what? I don't like standing here. So first we're going to talk about what value-centered design is, right? We all do user-centered design, so what's the difference? We're going to talk about values as they're inherent in all artifacts, all objects, everything we touch, everything we interact with. Examples of values in user experience design, so the things we make and how there are values inherent in those. We're going to talk about values in conflict and how to handle when two equally important values happen to conflict with each other, and what can happen when these situations arise and how to address it. We're going to talk through some methodologies that have been developed around value-centered design, and I'm going to show you a little bit about envisioning cards, and then we're going to do a little activity, and then we'll wrap up, okay? Okay, so value-centered design is sort of an overarching term. Now, there's two sort of competing schools of methodologies. One is called values in design, and one is called value-sensitive design, which makes it extremely hard to talk about this in a generic form, because it's really easy to use one or the other. So when I speak of value-sensitive design, values in design, value-centered design, I'm speaking generically, not of the specific methodology, FYI. So these are methodologies that have been developed primarily in academic institutions. NYU has a big center, University of Washington has a big center, and they are working right now to really get these methodologies out and in the hands of us, designers. These methodologies are critical in that they really seek to rip down to the base what the problem is, what the artifact is, what the use is. They're expansive in that they try to incorporate a broader set of values, a broader definition of values than we're probably used to dealing with on a regular basis. And they're proactive. They are designed to go out and find the problems to then find the solutions for it. So they focus on these values that are kind of big, right? So well-being, human dignity, justice. These all sound very lofty, don't they? And that's why I put up my little hippie guy, because every time I talk about this, I feel like I'm a character on Dazed and Confused. Like, yeah, I really want to advocate human rights, you know, but I'm like, you know, designing a bank website or something. So I was like, what do you do? So this requires that we really think more broadly about what we're doing. The goals for judging what's good technology, what's good user experience, and think about actually, you know, as lofty and strange as it seems, think about this human value issue. Even though I know we get up and go to work every day and it's just sort of what we do, we're designers. And we design the tools and the things, the objects that people use every day. And there's a lot of power in that. Okay, so we're all used to things like this. You know, oh, I want this task to go from taking 2 minutes to taking 1.5 minutes. I want this section of products to go up, you know, 10%. These are the kinds of improvements that we're often dealing with. This is the day-to-day nitty-gritty of what we address. And sometimes it's hard to remember that these are actually byproducts of larger values. So, for example, everyone wants social media, right? Product ratings, etc. Well, behind whether I'm going to rate your product or not, behind whether I'm going to trust somebody else's rating, is my microphone doing weird things? No? It sounds weird up here. are things like freedom from bias. So wanting to know, is this source biased? I want actual information. Accountability. So can I just go up there and write whatever I want? There's the, the new, well, not new, trend of people, hiring individuals to go and write great reviews, and can you trust them anymore? So there's a lot of these really bigger human level values, trust, that go into these little kinds of things that we're in the weeds with every day. So, obligatory fatty food metaphor. So we're like in a jelly, right? So we're in the jelly of the donut, right? We're in there. Jelly's great, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. And we're really good jelly and everyone likes us. But without the delicious crusty donut shell, it's still fine because it's jelly, but we're really not as delectable a treat as we could be. So this is the way to think of it. We're all dealing with the jelly, but we have to take a step back and look at the donut sometimes. All right, so earlier I said that values are inherent in all artifacts. So there's this idea that came out a while ago, this value neutrality of technology that said, remember this, you all love this, the internet's a free place and everyone's going to be equal and we're all going to hold hands, that whole thing? Yeah. So that was a utopian construction of technology, right? It's perfect, it's wonderful. It doesn't contain any values, it takes the values we give it as its users. It's not really true. Everything really has inherent values built in. So up here we have the excellent academic source dictionary.com, which defines value as ideals, customs, and institutions to which a group have an effective regard. So either we're really proud of our trustworthiness, our community building, or we really despise cruelty and dishonesty and things like that. So either way, positive values, negative values. But they're the things that are strong in a culture. And FYI, we're not talking about the politicized concept of values that you hear a lot in punditry. So just FYI on that. So a couple of examples of values inherent in artifacts. Up here I have a little snip from the 1790 census. So we all just went through the census last year. And we all know they asked how many people live in your domicile and this and that. And to us that's just really kind of standard, normal, obviously that's what you would ask kind of questions. Well, in 1790, the value set of the country was different. And first of all, these headings, so you were to mark how many people in each household fell under each of these headings. We've got free white males of 16 years and heads of household, free white males under 16 years, free white females, including heads of households, all other free persons, slaves. So, I mean, we look at this now and we're like, dear God, that's really very striking to us. But to them, it was just, this is obviously how you would measure this. Additionally, the 1790 census was set up to measure for understanding the country's preparedness for war. So that's why you have these split out this way. It's how many troops do we have? So that right there is reflective of a value built into just a simple matrix. Toys, we all know. Anybody who's a parent might hate it when their little boy gets, tons of guns and their little girl gets pink tutus and fairy kitchens and things like that. The toys we give our children reflect what they teach them, regardless of whether or not it's an educational toy. They teach them about what's valued in society, how these things are interacted with, etc. And then lastly, government budgets, a timely one. This is a map of the defense percentage of budget spent on defense. So here you can see the US is at like 19%. These guys in here are at they're in the sixes. The UAE is actually at 47%, who knew? So the way that people divide money and the way that countries and organizations spend money also tends to fall in line with what they value. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple examples of values in UX design, and these are mostly pulled from the academic literature that came from University of Washington and NYU and these big schools, that they actually went out and did case studies or worked with companies or evaluated systems. So that's where these are coming from. The first one is the Microsoft Code CoOp. So this was a knowledge sharing, code sharing sort of database, and Microsoft really, really wanted this to work because it's a huge, time saver, money saver. You get this sort of this tribal knowledge that actually gets stored when somebody leaves, So this is a big deal. They were dumping tons and tons of money into this, trying to figure out like how do we build this so people use it. Nobody was using all these systems. So the problem that the researchers discovered were that there were some really strong value conflicts in place with the way that the system existed and the way the system was integrated with the organization. So essentially what was happening was they wanted everyone sharing milkshakes and sharing their code and being very community focused. But in actuality, the way that the organization was set up was law of the jungle. Why should I take my time to put my code into this database? Why should I take my time to put all my expert tricks into this database if, when it comes to promotion time, I'm competing with the guy that I just gave all the good stuff to? So that's community versus self-preservation, the idea of building the community versus taking care of yourself. Anonymity versus accountability was another one, because people wanted to know whose code they were using, because if it was that guy that nobody understands how he still has a job, then you don't want to use his code. But what was happening is people were getting nervous to put stuff up if they didn't think it was perfect, and there was a lot, and so what ended up happening was people were afraid to post code and afraid to use code, so that was also stopping, obviously, any exchange of ideas. So in this case, the user-centric design probably couldn't have exposed this problem. Up here, they were using user-centered design practices like we use all the time, right? The systems worked. They were great. It was really easy to put the code up. It was really easy to take the code down. It was all very seamless. But the organization in which the system existed and the culture in which the system existed made it impossible for it to succeed. So in this case, the jelly was fine, but it couldn't have told you what was wrong with the donut around it. And I promise it's the last time I'm using the metaphor. I just really, really enjoy it. All right, here's another one. This is a medical record system that was implemented in a hospital, and the big goal behind this, the big push, was patient privacy, right? Secure the data. And this is what the stakeholders, so the hospital administrators, were really, really hot on. And so they designed this extremely, extremely secure kiosk system. So for nurses could go up and log in and get patient record information and then log out and then go do what they needed to do. But in order to keep it this secure, what happened was they ended up with a really long, cumbersome sign-in, sign-out procedure. And what was happening was nurses were leaving themselves logged in and just walking away from the kiosk and going and doing whatever they needed to do, and hence completely obliterating any privacy that there was. So what they discovered was that the nurses, the administrators who created this system to be primarily concerned with security, had one set of values. They were thinking about the data and this very sort of administrative, whereas the nurses saw their purpose as providing care to patients. So they saw themselves, they wanted to be doing this, not this. So the conflict in values between the user who wanted to do patient care and valued patient care as their purpose, the stakeholder who was concerned with administrative locks and all that, and the system, which then reflected the stakeholders' values, were not in concert with one another. So it ended up all backfiring. Okay, interior offices. This is a very proactive project that was undertaken at University of Washington. There were questions about emotional well-being in offices going around. Many of you might be familiar with this. So particularly people who don't have windows, right? They're in an internal cube, they don't see the sun. So these researchers went in and tried to figure out, does this even bother these inside people? Does this affect them? Is this a problem? So they went in and tried to learned about the calming effects of outdoor exposure, and tried to understand a little bit more about the culture and who's inside and why they're inside and how they feel about it. They created a plasma display solution in which they mounted plasma display screens inside people's offices, so it would be, like a fake window, pretty much. And they had a webcam outside over this plaza that the office was on, and it just live streamed. So it was like you could see what was going on outside in the plaza from your inside cube. So what ended up happening was they found that this really reduced psychological stress effects, low-level stress recuperation. So that's, something happens and you're all freaked out, and then how long does it take you to kind of calm down and get back to the centered? This really reduced the amount of time that took just by having the ability to stare at a plasma screen of outside instead of staring at a blank wall. Now, interestingly, this also boosted other business metrics, of course, and but notable, it did not produce as many positive effects as having an actual window. Interesting. So, in this case, they went in to understand what the problem was, and then from that were able to derive the solution. And then last one is Josie True and Rapunzel. And these are done by Tilt Factor, is that out of Dartmouth. And these two are games. So right here is Josie True, right here is Rapunzel. And the researchers that launched this were concerned with, we always hear about this, right? Girls don't go into math and science or computer science, tends to be more boys. There's always, how do we get girls to stay interested in math and science through junior high, which is usually when that split occurs. So this was their concern. So what they did was they tried to understand, instead of just the whole, oh, I don't want to do it, I don't like it, I'm not interested in it, understanding what they did value, what they did like, what they were into. And for Rapunzel, it was stuff like dancing. They like to dance. They like to hang out with their friends. They like fashion, things like this. So what they did was they took those values and brought the science to it. So this is a game that is, this is bits of code. And you write bits of code to make your avatar dance, and you can change her clothes, but only through code. And then you can compete with your friends, and you have dance-offs. And I didn't bust out my good moves, but maybe later. So then you have dance-offs, and it's all done. It's all stuff they want to do, right? I want to have a dance-off with my friends. But you have to code in order to do it. So they were able to sort of circumnavigate this trouble spot of, only nerds do that, only boys do that, by making it something that they do anyway. And then Josie True was a follow-up project targeting 4th graders, female and non-white. Again, there's a big division there in the demographic of people going into math, science, and computer fields. So this was a follow-up project to get those people to learn the skills without having to admit they were learning the skills. So this used the values and design methodology to address these gaps between what people were concerned about and the products that were coming out to try to address it, and they were not succeeding. So in this one, the ability to understand the deeper values of these individuals led to just busted open a path, you just kind of roll down it, this organic way to get people to perform the desired behavior and like it. Okay, so I did talk a little bit about values and conflict through a few of those examples. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that, because a lot of times that's the crux of it. That's really where things fall down. Interestingly enough, that's also where opportunities present themselves, of course, right? Double-edged sword. Okay, stakeholders' values may conflict with users' values. So this was the case of the medical situation where the stakeholders said, oh, we want security, privacy. And the users, the nurses, they saw themselves as caretakers. And they valued doing that, they didn't want to be, guardians of data. so in situations like this, where the stakeholders and the users are not aligning, you're going to end up, and I'm sure we've all had this experience, you end up with a system that's awesome for the people that are holding the purse strings, but the people who are actually going to use it, have no idea what it's about. So identifying these value conflicts is obviously the first step toward resolving them, which involves the first sort of an overview. Remember I talked about how these methodologies kind of rip down systems and concepts to the really base level, these really base hippie kind of terms. So by taking a problem and just stripping it down, you can actually get to the values that are inherent and then see which of them are butting up against each other. Like with the Microsoft CoOp, good designs, you can have a great design, but if the user can't figure out where they fit within it or can't find a value for themselves in it, then it's going to fall down. And then finally, if and when these value conflicts do occur, a lot of times what you have to end up doing is privileging one over the other, which is very strange because it feels weird to say privacy is more important than autonomy. But this is sort of how it has to be addressed. Otherwise, again, you end up with a system that nobody wants to use. So here are some common conflicts that come up in UX. These are sort of like the classics. Anonymity versus accountability is the one flaming, right? You can post to a message board and you want to be anonymous because you want to be able to be honest, but then you're not accountable and you can be a big jerk. So there's all sorts of things like this. Automation versus autonomy. I want to make things easy for people. I want to make it seamless for people, but then I'm taking all the power away from them. They don't really get to do anything. And then privacy versus security is, you want to know all this stuff about me so that you can use it to make sure I'm me. But I'm not comfortable with that because then because then you know it all, but then you can't provide me that level of security without knowing information that nobody else knows. So, conflicts. All right, this is a slide with a lot of big words. Iterative tripartite VSD methodology. I know, it's kind of swanky. So this is where we talk about the method, the actual doing of all this. And so we're breaking it down into, I'm targeting VSD methodology. Remember I said there was value-sensitive design and values in design, which are so generic sounding that it makes it impossible to differentiate them. So this is value-sensitive design. The stages of value-sensitive design are conceptual, empirical, and technical. And the beauty of this is that it kind of aligns with what we already do, right? Conceptual is when you look at the problem, try to understand the problem, try to break the problem apart. So when do we do that? Is there a phase?
Early on.
Exactly, early on. The first stage is usually like user research or exploration or something like that. Empirical is when you go in and your design, you nail down your designs, you know exactly what you're doing, and then you can test it and see, is this actually doing what I want it to do? And we do that all in testing phase, right? And then technical is when you see if we can actually do this. And I don't do that. And then around again, it's all iterative, of course. So this is something that can be really, that can be slid right in to existing methodologies. Using value-sensitive design is not a question of overhauling your whole process. It's just a question of finding ways to insert value awareness along the way. So there are a few tools to help you with this. I have some right here. These are called envisioning cards, and they are done by a group out in Seattle. And each card has a very nice picture that makes you understand, a little more about the issue. So this one says accounting for culture. And then over here, it explains like, hey, think about your design in a broader context of maybe it's going to cross into different cultures. Maybe this mobile app that you're designing right now for, teenagers to share music in the US is eventually going to be used, to share data in, a revolution somewhere. Where could this go? What are other things going on in the world and other ways of living that that could end up being used, or your technology could end up facilitating? So there's stakeholders, time, values, and pervasiveness. So these 4 categories are 4 sort of bodies of ways to think about your project. And we're going to play with those in a little bit. There's also Grow a Game cards, which were designed specifically for gaming. They were designed by the people that did Rapunzel. And they are essentially just a bunch of values, cards with values on them, and you basically try to pick a bunch of them and develop a game that deals with all these different values. So you could end up with a ridiculous conglomeration, and you've got to figure out how to design a game. It's really good for getting yourself into the mindset of understanding really, well, how do I operationalize this value? These things are useful for kind of pushing yourself, getting unstuck, and really defining your audience, right? Because if we can target their values. So let's see. Activity time. Okay. So we're going to, let me check the time here.
20 minutes.
Lovely. Okay. So we're going to figure out how to redesign a game, taking into account some values. So let's see. We're going to evaluate. I was really proud of that one. Scrabble. So for anyone who hasn't played Scrabble in a while, here are key pieces of the game. So, kind of like the nuts and bolts of Scrabble, what really goes into it. So in order to evaluate, last time, again, I promise. So we have to think about what values Scrabble already encapsulates, right? So from the way that the Scrabble game works, what are we learning about the culture that plays Scrabble, the people that play Scrabble? Anybody? Yeah?
Well, it's a competitive game.
Ah. So competition?
Level of intellect.
Uh-huh.
Social.
Okay.
Values, vocabulary knowledge.
Spelling.
Oh, I thought you were just telling me I spelled something wrong.
No.
I'm really nervous.
What was that second one?
This is intellect. Oh yeah, I got that one. Phew. That'd be an embarrassing one to misspell. All right. Okay, so intellect, and we're going to say specialized as well. So like good vocabulary, right? So knowledge and smartness, but also specific types of knowledge. So what else?
Individual as opposed to choosing.
Individual. Okay.
English.
Family time.
Yeah, it's as far as I know, it's how do I know?
No, you can get them in all kinds of alphabets.
All right, somebody yelled one out that I didn't catch.
But you're playing it in a specific language.
Yeah.
You can't combine languages.
Okay.
Is in one language.
Okay, so how do we want to say that?
One language only.
Yeah, reinforcement of.
Common language between
monolingual.
Oh, that's interesting. Looking at it that way, so like everyone has to share the language in order to play.
Yeah.
Ah,
Shared language.
I like it.
It has a random component.
Oh, okay. So how do we want to say that from a value?
Serendipity.
Oh, serendipity. Okay, so like understanding that you kind of have to roll with it. I like it. All right, one more.
Resourcefulness.
Oh God, that was like 4. Okay. All right, 3 more. One of you.
Resourcefulness. Strategy.
Strategy, resourcefulness.
Planning.
All right, there are many more, but I'm going to stop here. Okay, so these are the values that Scrabble currently encapsulates, right? So what do these mean? These are competition. Okay, that's a pretty in intellect. These are very kind of like hard to define things. So what do we actually mean by these? And we'll just pick a couple. I'm just going to pick those 4. Nothing personal, anyone. So what is it? What are we asking for people to be competitive? Why are we asking that? Why do we want that?
Well, you're basically, it's, everybody's out for themselves. It's not a collaborative game.
Okay, and what is that telling us? Why is that reflective of our culture?
You're separating the good from the bad.
Yeah.
Putting this, you guys are losers and I'm a winner.
It's individual smarts versus group smarts.
Okay, so this competition and individualism are kind of coming down to a similar thing. And I'm kind of feeling like it's like a self-preservation sort of thing. Like you want to advance, you want to be the alpha. Is that reasonable? We'll just, yeah, exactly. We'll just call it alpha dog. All right. So now we have intellect and intellect and specialized intellect, and socializing are our other two. So what's the big deal with intellect in our culture? Why do we care about that? Some people don't. Yeah.
Smarter people achieve more. Smarter people advance.
Okay. Oh.
Get money.
Okay. Good. So social status maybe in here, which kind of is alpha dog-ish, but that's all right.
Yeah.
And status, socializing. Wait, don't type and read. Okay. So socializing. Why do we care about socializing?
It's human.
It's human, right? What do we as humans gain from having a social life?
Well-being.
Well-being, community.
Keeping our sanity.
Assistance when we need it.
All right. Safety in numbers. Great. Right. So Scrabble embodies values. Values tell us something about our culture. Do we see any inherent value conflicts?
Yeah.
What do we see that's conflicting?
Socializing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Socializing and the competing.
Aha. All right. So we want to have fun with our friends and build relationships, but we also want to beat them. Right? But you need them to beat them, exactly. So that's a good point. So yeah, so you're sort of in this conundrum where, has anyone ever done this, played Scrabble, and at the end of it you're kind of a little bitter because somebody so those are definitely, wanting to win but wanting to hang out. Definitely two values in conflict. Okay. Oh, it goes over there. Okay, so now we're going to reevaluate Scrabble. What can we do to the game? And again, here are the key pieces. What can we do to Scrabble to have it advocate community, right? So we're taking these two values in conflict. I'm going to say socializing is like community. In conflict with competition, how do we privilege community? And also physical well-being. Scrabble, you kind of sit around and you drink a glass of wine. How do we make it physically good for us? So way in the back there?
Well, community could require teams, partners.
Okay. So require teams, right? Because right now it's 4 individuals.
Make it
Move triple word score.
I like it. So is that, were you goofy or?
Don't keep score.
Don't keep score, okay. Yeah.
Well, for community, you could have 2 different boards, and the idea is for everyone on your board to get a higher total than the other board. And for physical well-being, you could make the tiles really big and really heavy.
All right, so we've got like group play. Somebody over here had something. Did I see a hand?
Going off the physical well-being, you can make it life-size Scrabble.
Oh, okay. So walk me through that.
You have to carry big pieces like this big.
All right. So
You
life
need
like.
help carrying them too. So.
Oh yeah, if you need help. Interesting. We're very anaerobic focused here. Let's get a little cardio in.
Put the tiles very far away.
Oh, okay. So like scatter the tiles around the room.
Around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If
next to him?
Oh, that's not.
Oh, okay. For free vowel, I would do that with my wine. Yes.
So kind of going along with the team thing, have like a time limit and you're working together to get to a certain score before time runs out.
Okay, so now what you've done is you've taken it away from being an individual play where each person or each team or each group is amassing points, and now you've got a collective goal, right? So,
Competition against something other than two people.
right, against the clock or something. Okay, great. So many contraptions, I just need to know what time it is.
9 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so, so we've got, so community and physical well-being, when I brought those up initially, everyone laughed, right? Because, this is Scrabble, right? But we got our brains going, we got thinking, and we came up with some darn good ideas, right? On how to make these seemingly completely off-base values kind of a viable part of Scrabble. So this is the kind of brain play you get to do with values and design type work. It's thinking on a different sort of level, kind of exercises your brain a little bit, physical well-being. Okay. All right. So take a minute and find a friend. Find a partner. Extroverts, I'm counting on you. Lean to someone to your right. You can be in 2s, you can be in 3s, you can be in 5s, whatever you want.
The year.
All right, welcome back. Hope you're all efficient. All right, so now I want you guys to try it amongst yourselves without me leading you. So let's remember, the first step is to identify existing values in the system or the system type, right? If we're starting with something like Scrabble that we all know, then we want to identify the values in Scrabble. If we're starting with designing something new, well, then we have to figure out, with this type of thing, what kind of values are usually associated with it. Consider what the values mean, right? Oh, these should be existing. Consider what these existing values mean, right? Okay, so this is the stage where we did this, where we took these kind of lofty words, or we took these words and kind of made them into, what are we kind of bigger talking about? And identify and resolve value conflicts, and then think about integration. So we'll just do this quick. So components of a mobile banking app. Now, if anybody comes out of this with wireframes, we're going to have words. This is like just, we're just talking about concepts, ideas, very fluffy. So a mobile banking app to consider democracy and sustainability. All right? Democracy and sustainability. You can start with, if you feel confident only with one, that's fine. So the first thing we're going to do, I see a lot of scared faces. But this is a democracy. So identify existing values in a system or system type. So what kind of values are there inherent in like a mobile banking app?
Security.
Security, big one, big time. Yeah. What else? Privacy. Access. Exactly. What else?
Capitalism. Value of money.
Exactly. Money, right? We have this because we care about our money. All right, so these are the types of values that exist in this type of system, right? Do you guys want to take a second and work with your pal to try to come up with one or two more? I think you can do it. Just a couple more seconds.
It's a watch.
Translates a lot to
All right. Tell me what you got. Let me see hands. Uh-huh. I'm going to call that accessible information. Is that all right? And then we have security was a big one, privacy, and capitalism. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there. Now, consider what these new values mean. So let's do one together. Security. Why a security thing? Why do we care?
It's our money.
It's our money, right? And what's the word our, right? It's your money, right? It's your money, it's your money, it's your money. Does Oprah do that? Kind of moment, sorry. So, there's nothing under your chairs, don't get excited. Okay, so we care about security because we care about ourselves. We have stuff. We want to keep our stuff, right? This is with planning for the future. This is what we work for. This is what we use to do the things we want. So security is really about the meanness, first of all this. This is mine. Ownership.
And fear.
Oh, fear is really interesting. Because what if somebody takes it?
Absolutely.
3 minutes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so ownership and fear. So, okay. So, identify and resolve any value conflicts. What do we see? Any conflicts?
I think privacy was similar to
All right, can I see a hand? I heard somebody say something back here.
No.
Access and security is one. Is anyone else?
Also privacy was also concerning me.
Okay. So what does privacy conflict with?
Oh, it doesn't.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So accessibility and security, right? This is kind of like that nurse's station thing. I want to be able to get to it really easily. I want to be able to see my money. But, it's going to take a while to get in there if it's really secure. So here's a conflict. Okay? And so think of creative ways to integrate new values. So I'm going to give you guys, we have like 2 minutes left. I'm going to give you guys one. 60 seconds, go. So how can we fold this in? Alternate ways of security. Yeah, definitely. Like instead of me having to do that, all that typing is perfect.
Take it out of your pocket, mobile application.
Is that written? So alternate ways to enforce security. Yeah.
Accelerate the process.
You're actually you're isolated. So we're talking about integrating democracy and sustainability, right? So democracy seems kind of like smoothly sort of thing, right? So how can we integrate sort of democratic fields into because they're supposed to, right? Okay, so like the access to security, sure, great. Anybody have a meltdown? No? Meltdown? Okay. Alright. So we are, I believe we're out of time. Oh, no, we have 1 minute. 1 minute. Okay, so did anybody come up with an awesome way to integrate democracy or sustainability? Awesome, ridiculous? Yeah.
We had just social investment, so investing in a way that benefits the community.
Okay, so that's really good because that can be about sustainability, and that's also democracy because you could structure it in such a way. That is a sort of a banking concept, and I want to hear about like the actual interface. Is that?
Oh, not the interface, but we had this notion that maybe you get a higher rate of return if you were walking to the bank while using it for sustainability.
Oh, so you guys are thinking about this on a system level. I'm down. All right, good. So we've got social investing, higher rate for walking. Unless it's your mortgage, in which case it's lower. All right, one more?
It keeps track of how much paper you're saving by using the app.
Oh. Keeps track of how much paper you're saving by using the app instead of printing stuff.
Something that gives you an incentive for buying green paper towels as opposed to, recycle as opposed to not. Something that if you buy a more expensive green product, you actually get subsidized by your bank.
Ah. Okay, so using it as a bank card and getting rewards for local, organic, recycled. Okay, great. So we are out of time, and I'm sorry. I hate to cut people off. I like the hands up, but I know I'll have to get going. I kind of privileged. I had two conflicting values. I privileged workshop over questions. So if anybody wants to ask me anything, come find me. Here is. Oh, well, we won't deal with that, I guess. So there's my info, and there's some resources.
How about your slide deck?
The slide deck, yeah, I have to deal with that, huh? Yeah. I guess. Can that go up somewhere, Megan? Is there a? Yeah. Where could that go?
It'll go on MadPow.
Okay, on MadPow blog. Oh, okay, yeah. It's 4 o'clock, and I kind of got to be right.
That's good.
Thank you. Oh, I was learning some presentation. I was nervous about my call before the presentation. Oh, no, wait. Oh, okay. And maybe I'll keep this slide to Chris because I assume these slides are up on the site or something. Oh, okay.